Ladies and gentlemen, listeners of all ages, hello and welcome to another episode of Cut to Reveal. For this episode, maybe it's something special, maybe it's not.
We're gonna show each other some action scenes, right?
By the way, all of the scenes that we mentioned, we can spot problems in them, right? But I'm sure that editors who worked on those films, they probably saw those mistakes as well, but sometimes it's such a complicated machine, a film. I'm just adding that because of my imposter syndrome. Who am I to, judge those guys who are so much accomplished than I am?
Okay, so the scene that I picked is from the series Gangs of London. This was directed by Gareth Evans. If you're familiar with the movie The Raid, it's a Malaysian film, but Gareth Evans, he's Welsh. It's not something that you'd equate with like the director of The Raid. So Gangs of London is a story about an undercover cop trying to infiltrate the mob.
Fox press me.
The funny thing with Gareth Evans is that he cultivated a style very much different from the Hong Kong style, which is you try to have clean camera movement. He's into handheld. We were on the verge sometimes in that scene of not completely understanding what's going on.
We're kissing the line, but at the same time, he was like, when he would change a shot, the action was centered. When we're following him and he's dragging the guy, and then the next shot is reverse of that, but we're seeing him still in the center before it's overhead, and then he's breaking his leg.
That's where his craft is coming in, because when the guy is using a dart to fight, you still have the close-up of the hand. So you have that beat. I'm going to take a second to show you where it's at, what it's doing. So then when you go for the wider shot, you understand what just happened.
The eye trace isn't all over the place. It's still like centered. Like we see that he grabs the dart out of a jar full of darts. It's kind of a freeze frame in time, like, oh shit.
There's an understanding of the kind of shot the audience needs to be able to appreciate the choreography. And you often have what I would call like these finishing moves. When he breaks the guy's foot using the angle of the bar, we're like, oh. And they kind of like beats within the scene, because even if it's only for a second, you kind of stop to, in a way, appreciate the violence of what's just happened. But it's also like, it gives you a second to kind of rest before like going back into the brawling.
Some of it felt like it's a stylistic choice to like over-exaggerate a little bit.
I have back issues. I could never dream of doing a fall like that. The stuntmen, sometimes they just like throw themselves to sell a punch. And you can see the dedication in that scene.
So you may be wondering, how did they pull a shot like that? Well, let's take a closer look. The trick starts here. If we watch this action one frame at a time, we can see that there is a weird jump here. See it? It's probably because the editor cut out the frames where the actor suddenly stopped his swing and slowly placed the ashtray in the stuntman's mouth. And since they wanted to make it look violent, they just cut that part out and resumed the shot when the stuntman threw his head back to sell the hit. But what about the broken glass? The exploding shards are obviously CGI, but it'd be tricky to convincingly CGI an ashtray in the stuntman's mouth. So they opted for a combination of two tricks, sewing two shots together thanks to a body wipe, and shooting the second shot in reverse. So the stuntman actually takes his face away from the bar with the actual ashtray in mouth. That way the stuntman is totally in control and the whole thing looks very convincing.
It almost looked like Daniel Craig was driving the truck, but he was just dressed up in a different outfit.
It's a mess. Sure, you've got great stunts and so on, but like there is no
time to appreciate what's going on.
Yeah, and no geography to the scene.
Here's an example of bad quick cutting that also contains a disorienting line jump. As you can see in that shot 1, James Bond is looking toward the right side of the screen, and we understand it's driving in that direction, away from the bad guys. But in shot 2, we have a split-second shot showing the hood of the car, but this time we jump the line, and the car is moving toward the left side of the screen, which is already confusing. Finally, in shot 3, we jump the line once again to see the car speeding toward the right side of the screen. Now, let's see the same moment with shot 2 cut out. You have to wonder, what's the purpose of this 4-frame shot? They actually wanted to make you think the car was scraping against the rail, but we just had no time to see it. I mean, we have 1/6 of a second.
The truck is next to the car where James Bond is sitting, but you never get a shot where you realize that they're next to each other.
I think they had way enough in the dailies not to have to rely on quick cuts. There's that awesome shot where the car is turning on the road and you see the whole car, but you have a second to appreciate what's going on, the choreography and the work that was put in to be able to achieve a shot like that, and you use it for a second.
Sword of a Stranger is a Japanese animated feature that I keep preaching about because I love it so much. We're about to watch an opening sequence. Obviously, it's a different medium, so they have like a total control over every frame. But I find it very interesting how they choose to add it. In my opinion, it's readable, even though it's very fast-paced as well. But every cut has a meaning and is justified. Each angle uses its potential to the best before cutting to the other one.
That handheld movement in order to make them more gripping, especially like in the wider shots when you can see this guy running around cutting people's like limbs off. So fast you have trouble finding him, and I think that goes along with the character building in that instance. These guys are fighting against a ghost in a way. I think it builds the character.
Yeah, it sets up his ghost persona, so to speak. We don't see the villain, we just see the guy just shouting, then we get this shot of a sword flying. The choices of the shots are just so good. I don't think there would be a better way to show this stuff.
And there are like some strong directing choices. One of the first guy, he cuts the head off. You actually, in a POV, he comes to you and cutting your head off. You stay where the head was and you have just blood pouring over the lens.
This is a perfect example of the power of sound. Obviously, this is an animation, so there isn't native sound to go with it. There's no production sound to go with it. So anything that you're hearing is completely made for this, and it's embellishing everything, even more so than live action. Just how powerful sound is.
Hard Boiled is one of my favorite action movies. It's a John Woo movie, so you have the typical slow motion. It's a very specific visual style at that time of his career. His action scenes were so inventive, it was mind-blowing. So just to set the scene up, Chow Yun-fat, one of the most well-known Asian actors in the world, is a cop with a colleague of his, and they're supposed to make some arrest. But there's an unknown shooter that comes in the mix, and things go very awry.
I found it very interesting that they used a lot of inserts of the birds, but not also the birds. You've got like the bullets hitting something, like, you know, stuff being destroyed pretty much, right? It felt like his introduction to the grammar they're going to use.
I love John Woo's visual style for action scenes, because shootouts are a bit different than your fist fights, especially when you have like multiple characters here. Like being able to convey who's shooting at who is very complicated. The beats that they want you to really see hit you really hard. To me, that scene is still as fresh today as it was the first time I saw it. When he's going down the stairs, he's always coming back a half second, a second, but it's still like very effective because overlaps make the action so much more impactful.
I was just thinking, like, how many times did they actually shoot this? Was this just one take? Because so many things are crashing and falling apart and whatever, and like to reset, it's like, oh my God, that would be terrible.
For a scene like that, you may be spending around a month. The famous fight scene from Mission Impossible Fallout. We'd spent 2 weeks shooting that. So
Wow.
good action takes a lot of time.
Well, especially when you're choreographing something like that.
Because nowadays in John Wick, they pretend to be shooting and they had muzzle flares in post-production. Hard-boiled, it's real fake bullets. And so a gun jams, you have to redo the scene. And I don't know if you've noticed, he never reloads. Not at any point. He may be shooting 70 bullets.
Yeah. All right, and that's it for this episode. Listener, if you have anything to add to that, please let us know by either commenting or sending us an email or reaching out to us on Instagram. With that being said, we hope you have a great day. So take care.